Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have the unboxing of the Nothing Phone 2a Plus. Let's get started. It is worth reminding you that the editions with the letter A would be a sort of mid-range editions. Although it's funny because Nothing already launched the CMF series also for the entry or mid-range. So in a way they are competing among themselves, especially in the non-Plus edition. This Plus edition has a more advanced processor, so it is a bit more expensive. Its launch price in Mexico is 9,499 pesos. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. Join me in opening this box. Right off the bat, I love that Nothing also puts a lot of thought into the packaging. Notice that in this box that comes inside the main box, we're even going to find this texture to give a sort of homage to the camera module on the back. In addition to the glyph interface and other things, then it has this kind of little details that makes it perceived as a pretty premium product, even though in this case we are talking about a mid-range device. But let's keep opening the box. In this part, we are welcome to the Nothing community. They even tell us to use some special hashtag if you want to share some pictures captured with this device, in case you want them to be used later in some presentation. But let's get the device out. And look, nothing else, we already have here directly the cell phone. I honestly think it's one of the most attractive designs I've ever seen. It's extremely eye-catching, it looks very technological. Remember that Nothing is a brand that puts special emphasis on design and transparencies. So in this case, you can see some screws, you can see some plates and everything very nice. So in design, I find already its main strong point. But let's see what else is in the box as this device powers up. And well, we'll come across the cable, which also has transparencies on its tips. That's a nice design touch, but as you realize, in this case we don't find charger, so that's a very weak point. In Nothing's online store you can buy that charger, but it's annoying that it's not included in the box. And well, here we are going to find a little quick guide, papers of all life. And finally, in this part there seems to be a little bit more content. And we're talking about the key to remove the tray, which also has transparency. It looks like a little capsule, as you notice. So even this tool has an attractive touch in the design by Nothing. So you immediately realize that this is a brand that's going to prioritize the design theme very, very much. In that aspect, I love it, but I repeat, the fact that they don't give me a magazine does bother me quite a bit. Let's put this away and take a closer look at the phone. I've already got this device set up so we can take a look at its specs, so let's get started. It's 8.5 millimeters thick and weighs 190 grams. I think it does well in that regard. On the front, we'll find Gorilla Glass 5 as a resistance level, and it's also IP54, which makes it resistant to simple splashes, so it may come to disappoint a little bit in the section of resistance against water, which is still not something that absolutely every competitor integrates. But we are going to find in Samsung and Motorola mainly alternatives with greater water resistance. And on the back, it integrates the glyph interface. This glyph interface is not only going to be useful for when we are being called, but also for many other things that I will tell you about in the review. So it's a very important topic. The design and the glyph interface are the hallmarks of this device. The screen will have a diagonal of 6.7 inches. But what I like about this screen is that it has fairly thin bezels, even at the bottom. So it's a device that really looks very modern. The resolution of this screen is 1084 by 2412 pixels. Practically, we could say that it is full HD+. Although strictly speaking, it is not that resolution because it has some additional pixels. Possibly because of the reduced bezel issue or because of the rounded corner. This screen has 120 Hz in its refresh rate, and in conjunction with the super optimized system make it feel super smooth. The screen peaks at 1300 nits when viewing HDR content, so I think it's good from any point you want to look at it. This device integrates stereo sound with a speaker on the bottom and another in the earpiece area for calls. As you may have noticed, there is no headphone jack. The front camera is 50 megapixels with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. I think it is somewhat remarkable that it integrates in a high-resolution sensor in the front camera. However, they will be quite tiny pixels, and with the aperture that is not so bright. I'm a little dubious as to what it will achieve in low-light conditions or at night. But there you are looking at the result before and after taking the picture. The preview still doesn't look optimized on this device, so you see all the background burned out. But then you notice that it does manage to recover the texture of the clouds quite well, so it looks like it will be a device that will perform well in these challenging environments. We'll see in the evenings when I show you the results in the video review. On the back, we will find the ultra-wide camera of 50 megapixels with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. And the main camera also 50 megapixels with f1.89 aperture, optical stabilization and autofocus. In this sense, it is surprising that the ultra-wide camera also has a high-resolution sensor, because in this price range, this is unusual. However, it only has 2 cameras instead of 3. As we could find in some other manufacturers who begin to integrate a telephoto lens in this price range. So like any mid-range device, they highlight some little things in other things not so much. So it's up to you as a user. But there on screen, we're seeing the result that we found with the ultra-wide camera. I find it to be of good quality. The fact of integrating a high-resolution sensor, I think it's going to allow it to have a remarkable performance. But in the review, we will analyze it in more depth. Now we are looking at the picture with the main camera, and it also looks very nice. In this case, it was an overcast day, so the sky is normal to look white. I applied zoom 2x also to see more or less how the camera behaves. And it seems to me that it doesn't keep 100% optical quality, but it does have a good quality. However, it will not be a device that excels in zoom, since the maximum zoom is 10x. And it is immediately noticeable that it is digital zoom, so it is not its main attraction. But I also took some portrait pictures, and I like that it doesn't just let us take portrait in 1x, where the perspective is a little weird, but also in 12x, which gives us a telephoto perspective, and the result looks good. In the review, we will analyze it in more depth. As for video recording, note that if you can get up to 4K, but only at 30 frames per second. However, I like that the ultra-wide camera, it also supports that resolution. And if you wanted to record at 60 frames per second, you can do it in full HD, and it's also compatible with the ultra-wide camera. In fact, the front camera can also record in 4K 30 frames per second, or full HD at 60. The battery will be 5000 milliamp hours, and it supports 50 watts of charging, but you have to buy the charger separately. That may be a point that angers many people. While it supports a remarkably powerful charge, you have to buy the charger in the Nothing store, because I think it will be a bit complicated to find it in physical stores. It is also going to offer us fingerprint reader inside the screen. Although this is obviously practically a standard among this price range. All devices integrate something like this. It also arrives with Android 14 and Nothing OS 2.6. And the manufacturer promises 3 years of updates with 4 years of security patches. And believe me, Nothing is one of the manufacturers that takes more care in their updates. It details very well all the new features. In the updates that it is receiving, everything that is correcting and any kind of optimization. So if you want a cell phone that is constantly updated and not just receive an update every year, this is the ideal device. The truth is that I really like their updates. This model comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. I think it delivers very well on both counts. The RAM is just too good. So even if you have a lot of things open, the device is still going to stay pretty fluid. And finally, the processor. It's the MediaTek Dimensity 7350 Pro. Honestly, it's a processor that I haven't tested on other devices, so I couldn't give you a direct benchmark. But let's take a look at the benchmarks. In Geekbench, it scored 1,205 points on a single core and 2,653 points in multi-core, while in Antutu, it scored 779,387 points. What does all this mean? Well, that it is a processor, that if it has adequate power for its price range. It is not a flagship processor. It is not a device that seeks to give you raw power, sacrificing everything else. But I think if you find a good balance, it is an adequate processor, good cameras, very attractive design, good battery. But in the video review, I will tell you many more details. For the moment, this has been all for this video. If you like it, you know you can tell me about it. And wait for the video review soon. See you next time.